The Rise of Muslims by Ali Mahmood. Episode 7. The Birth of Modern Egypt. When Selim the Grim conquered Egypt, he left an Ottoman viceroy to rule, but allowed the Mamluks to govern the 12 provinces which he created. By the end of the 18th century, the Mamluks were again effectively in control of Egypt. In 1798, Napoleon landed in Egypt with his army. He announced that he had come to punish the Mamluks because they were not true Muslims. The real reason was to checkmate the British and cut off their communication with India, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. It took Napoleon one day to conquer Egypt, but very soon after, Nelson, Britain's greatest naval commander, attacked and destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile, killed the French admiral, and sank £500,000 of gold and diamonds which Napoleon had brought to finance the expedition to Egypt. Napoleon had conquered Egypt, but was now trapped there. There was no future for Napoleon in Egypt. He had to get back to Paris to take the opportunities of the shifting political situation there. He departed secretly. Napoleon did not have a lasting impact on Egypt. Muhammad Ali, who followed him, did. Muhammad Ali was an Albanian soldier who changed the face of Egypt in his 50-year rule and is recognized as the founder of modern Egypt. Muhammad Ali secured independence for Egypt from Ottoman sovereignty and created a dynasty that lasted till it was removed by Nasser's revolution. Muhammad Ali became a hero to the Egyptians when he defeated a contingent of the British forces. He then invited 500 Mamluks to a banquet where they were all slaughtered, leaving the Pasha without challenge. He then concentrated on building up the economy of Egypt and conquering the territories around him, the Arabian Peninsula, Sudan, Greece, and then Syria. His son Ibrahim, a fearless soldier and a brilliant general, defeated the Wahhabis in the Arabian Peninsula, giving control of Mecca and Medina back to the Ottomans. A younger son, Ismail, was sent to the Sudan, where he died. In retaliation, his father, torn by grief, ordered the massacre of 50,000 Sudanese. The Pasha's army took Greece and then invaded Syria, but when they were within 100 miles of Istanbul, the great powers of Europe, who required the Ottoman Empire to maintain the delicate balance of power, reached an agreement with Muhammad Ali. He would vacate Syria, give back the Ottoman fleet which had deserted to him, and in return would receive the hereditary right to rule Egypt. Accepting the nominal suzerainty of the Sultan, Muhammad Ali gave up an empire in return for a dynasty. Muhammad Ali, himself illiterate till the age of 47, attached the highest importance to education. The Pasha hated corruption and his personal life was simple and austere. He cared nothing for money except as a means to great ends. After the death of the Pasha and his son Ibrahim, a series of weak successors depleted the treasury with grand projects. The Suez Canal was built, but the Egyptians were soon forced to sell their shares to the British. Rising Islamic nationalism under the Muslim Brotherhood and a demanding British imperial power ensured that the Khedive reigned, but the British ruled. Finally, Gamal Abdul Nasser removed the last king, Farouk, in his revolution of the Free Officers in 1952. The birth of modern Afghanistan. In the 16th and 17th century, Afghanistan was ruled sometimes by the Safavids and sometimes by the Mughals. The Shah in Isfahan sent his tyrannical governor, Gurgin Khan, to Kandahar, and Gurgin arrested the most influential of the Afghan chiefs, Mirwaz, and sent him prisoner to Isfahan. Mirwaz, bribing the corrupt courtiers of the Shah, won his trust and was restored to honor. Back in Kandahar, Gurgin insulted Mirwaz, ordering him to send his beautiful daughter as a concubine. Mirwaz sent a slave girl disguised as his daughter and then defeated and killed the Persians. Now, finally, in 1709, the Afghans ruled Kandahar. Mahmud, the son of Mirwaz, even took Isfahan for a while, but then the Persian strongman Nadir Shah took back the lost territories and much, much more. When Nadir was assassinated, Ahmad Khan, the Afghan who led the Shah's personal bodyguard and guarded his treasure, retreated to Afghanistan, where the loyal Jirga selected him as king. Ahmad Khan went on to build an empire second only to the Ottomans. He is known in history as Ahmad Shah Durrani. Ahmad Shah conquered Kabul, Herat, Ghazni, Meshhed, Khorasan, and India, where he took Peshawar, Kashmir, Lahore, Sindh, and Balochistan. He defeated the Marathas and took Delhi, where he was given the daughter of the Mughal emperor as bride for his son. As dowry, she brought with her the provinces of Sindh and Punjab. But Ahmad Shah's luck ran out and cancer ate away his nose and destroyed his jaw. He covered his deformity with a diamond nose guard, but finally died of cancer. For 3 generations, 2 great families ruled Afghanistan, the Sadazai Shahs and the Barakzai Viziers, but their long partnership was destroyed by an accident. The debauched Sadazai Emir Mahmud left government to his able vizier Fatih Khan Barakzai, who was sent to deal with a rebellious governor in Herat. Fatih Khan attacked the harem and misbehaved with the governor's wife, who unfortunately was the niece of the emir. On his return, Fatih was invited to dinner at the palace, where he was tied down and tortured. He was blinded, his ears, nose, hands and feet were cut off. Fatih suffered the excruciating torture in silence, but burst into tears when they cut off his beard. Finally, they cut his throat and killed him. Civil war and anarchy followed till Dost Muhammad became emir, but he in turn was removed by the British, who invaded Afghanistan and took Kandahar, Ghazni and Kabul almost without firing a gun. The British occupation proved pointless and expensive. Dost Muhammad commented, "I cannot understand why the rulers of so vast and flourishing an empire should have come across the Indus to deprive me of my poor and barren country." The 2 Anglo-Afghan wars achieved nothing and lingered on. One British officer commented, "We are thoroughly hated and not enough feared." And then Abdur Rahman, the grandson of Emir Dost Muhammad, arrived and negotiated a deal with the British, whose army withdrew. Abdur Rahman was known as the Iron Emir. He was tough, he ruled through terror. By the time he died, Afghanistan was one nation, with power centralized in its capital, Kabul. Amanullah, the grandson of Abdur Rahman, was a great admirer of Ataturk. On becoming king, he set about impetuously modernizing and declared Afghanistan independent. He discouraged both beards and burqa and aggressively pushed westernization. He was popular with his people, but his tour of Europe with his charming wife wearing western gowns shocked the Afghans. A Tajik bandit, Habibullah, known as Bachi Sakau, the water carrier's son, became famous as a local Robin Hood. The mullahs rallied behind him and condemned Amanullah's modernist Western approach. The king fled in his Rolls Royce with his family into exile. Bachi Sakau became king. When Bachi Sakau and his governors moved into the palace, they were confused by bathrooms and other luxuries which they had never seen before. The new governor slept on the billiard table thinking it was a bed and woke with aching bones. When the merchants were asked to lend money to the treasury to meet the financial crisis, they asked for security. Bachi Sakau's sword swept down, severing the thumb of the leading merchant. You asked for security, and you shall have it. This thumb is the security. Those of you who do not bring the money will lose their hands, feet, and noses too. The money was quickly produced. Bachi Sakau enjoyed his time as king, even though the Afghans did not. He was defeated by Nadir Khan and executed. Nadir presided over the birth of modern Afghanistan. The birth of modern Iran. After the assassination of the Emperor Nadir Shah, Persia fell into anarchy till the able, self-made Karim Khan Zand took power, and over a 29-year rule restored peace and prosperity. His death led to the rise of a vicious eunuch named Ali Mahmood, a Qajar chief who had been captured and castrated as a young boy, but who, due to his force of character, brilliance and determination, now emerged as the strongest leader in the land. Ali Mahmud's final victory over the Zands was at Kerman, where he gave the women of Kerman to his soldiers as slaves to rape or kill. He then ordered that 20,000 pair of eyes be presented to him. He counted them carefully to make sure that he had not been shortchanged. He slaughtered the prisoners, made a pyramid of skulls, and left Kerman destroyed, a city of blind beggars and raped women. Kerman never recovered from his visit. Ali Mahmud was assassinated by two convicted criminals, leaving his legacy of a peaceful and united Persia. His new dynasty, the Qajars, was to last for more than a century. The longest ruling Qajar Shah was Nasser al-Din Shah, who ruled for 50 years. He was seriously broke and raised money by borrowing from Russia and from the sale of concessions to foreign businessmen. His concession to Baron Julius de Ruyter granted a monopoly on railways, irrigation, roads, a bank, and exploitation rights over forests and mines, but public protest led to cancellation of the concession. The Shah gave a 50-year tobacco monopoly to a British businessman, Major Gerald Talbot, but the religious scholar Mirza Shirazi issued a fatwa against smoking, leading to a total boycotting of tobacco. The concession was cancelled, but a large compensation was paid under duress to the British company. After celebrating his 50-year rule, the old Shah was shot and killed. After him, his son Muhammad Ali Shah was deposed and exiled to Italy. The days of all-powerful Shahs were over. After Muhammad Ali, every future Shah died in exile, the Qajars, and after them, the Pahlavis. World War I started in 1914. In 1916, a Russian army marched on Tehran with nothing to stop them. Tehran was saved by a miracle. The Bolshevik Revolution turned Russia inwards against itself, leaving Persia safe. The only remaining power was the British, who encouraged Reza Khan, the colonel of the Cossack Brigade, to take power through a coup d'etat. Reza Khan was a semi-illiterate teenager who had joined the Cossack Brigade. He was known as Reza Shah Maxim, after the Maxim machine gun which he adored. He ended the Qajar dynasty and crowned himself the first Pahlavi Shah. He changed Persia drastically. He modernized and westernized the nation, building up the infrastructure and education with the money he collected through his improved and efficient tax collection machine and through the new oil revenues. He improved the status of women, spread the use of the Persian language, imposed military conscription, and created the Iran of the 20th century. But he was a dictator, violent and oppressive, who made corruption and torture an everyday part of life in Iran. He ruled through terror. He had an unholy love of land and became the largest landowner in Iran, with personal holdings in excess of 3 million acres, acquired through confiscation, fraudulent takeover of state property, and forced purchase from landlords at knockdown prices. By 1934, the Shah was completely out of control. His extension of the concession agreement with the Anglo-Iranian oil company fueled discontent. His final mistake was his pro-German, pro-Nazi sympathy when the Second World War started in 1939. The British forced him to abdicate in favor of his son and go into exile, where he died in 1944. Jinnah and the birth of Pakistan. The most important man in Asia is 67, tall, thin and elegant, with a monocle on a grey silk cord and a stiff white collar which he wears in the hottest of weather. The difference between Jinnah and the typical Hindu politician is the difference between a surgeon and a witch doctor, said Beverly Nichols, a British author. Jinnah, the founder of Pakistan, dressed English, talked English and thought English, yet created the state of Pakistan. Born as Shia Khoja in Karadar, Karachi, he was tolerant in his religious views. He was married off at the age of 15 and left for England to study law. When he returned, his wife had died and his father had taken substantial business losses. Jinnah left for the big town, Bombay, to pursue his career. By 1906, Jinnah, recognized as the up-and-coming new star of the Bombay courts and financially secure, decided to enter politics. He believed in Hindu-Muslim unity and joined the Indian National Congress. The 40-year-old Jinnah then fell in love with the 17-year-old Parsi heiress, Rati Petty. Despite the opposition of her father, they married. By 1928, their marriage was on the rocks and Rati moved into a suite in the Taj Mahal Hotel. A year later, she died, and in the same year, hope for Hindu-Muslim unity also died. A depressed Jinnah moved to London. The elections of 1937 saw victory for Congress and a severe defeat for the Muslim League. By 1940, Jinnah concluded that democracy can only mean Hindu Raj all over India. The assumptions on which parliamentary democracy depends have no application at all to Indian conditions. The British won the World War, and in 1946, the Muslim League won 76 of the 79 Muslim seats, a vindication for Jinnah. A year later, in 1947, Pakistan was born. It was a bloody birth as 14 million refugees moved across borders to their new countries, and over 1 million were killed. The birth of Saudi Arabia. After the death of the Prophet and the 4 righteous caliphs, the capital of the Muslim world shifted to Damascus and then Baghdad, Cordoba, and Cairo. The Arabian Peninsula slumbered. Then in 1703, in the Nejd area of Central Arabia, a man was born by the name of Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, who founded the Wahhabi sect of Islam. Wahhab made an alliance with Muhammad ibn Saud, cemented by the marriage of their children, which led to the conquest of Arabia. In 1796, Saud, the chief of the Saudi Wahhabi alliance, defeated the army of the Sharif of Mecca and took Mecca and Medina. When the Wahhabis invaded Iraq, the Ottoman Sultan asked Muhammad Ali, his viceroy in Egypt, to deal with the problem. The religious fervor of the Wahhabis was no match against modern technology, and in 1812 the army of Muhammad Ali defeated the Wahhabis and took Medina and Mecca back under Ottoman control. The Saudi chieftain was taken in chains to Istanbul, where he was executed. The Al-Rashids of Hayil conquered the Nejd, and Abd al-Rahman, the younger son of the Saudi chief, fled to exile in Kuwait, where he lived with his family in 3 rooms, without money or authority, a life of humiliation. Even the marriage of his son Abdulaziz, who was to become the founder of Saudi Arabia, had to be postponed due to lack of money. Abdulaziz decided to risk all, attack Riyadh, and win back his family's small kingdom. He set out with 30 friends, 30 camels, and 30 rifles. The small group secretly entered Riyadh by night and in a surprise attack killed the governor. By morning, Abdulaziz was master of Riyadh, but being master of Riyadh did not mean much. Al-Rashid was still lord of the Nejd. In these years, the legend of Abdul Aziz grew. Between 1902 and 1925, he conquered Riyadh, Hassa, the Nejd, and the Hijaz, and in 1932 created the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In 1935, oil was found. Hassa was manned by the Ottoman garrison of 2,000 soldiers. In a surprise night attack, Abdulaziz took Hassa and captured what would prove to be 25% of the world's petroleum reserves, a prize that would, within a century, earn his kingdom $1 billion a day and make his family the richest family on earth. Abdulaziz now ruled a territory as large as Europe, but it was not yet one kingdom. And then the Ikhwan, his fanatical Bedouin army, revolted. At Sibilla in March 1929, in a 15-minute battle using machine guns and Chevrolet and Ford trucks, he massacred his own Ikhwan army. He now unified his territories into one kingdom, which he named after himself and his family, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But his troubles did not cease. He was broke. For the first few years, no oil was found. 6 wells came up empty. The 7th proved a bonanza. During the last 7 years of his life, his oil wealth multiplied. After his death in 1953, the seed that he had planted continued to grow. By 2008, the income of the kingdom had reached $1 billion a day, as they pumped 10 million barrels a day at a price of $100 a barrel. With the support of the British, Abdulaziz ibn Saud, who started with less than nothing and created the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is today competing to be one of the strongest regional powers, along with Iran and Israel.